Welcome to Tanakh Talk. I'm your host, William Hall, broadcasting live from Kingsland, Texas, USA, with another episode of Rob. I call you Rob. You're a teacher in my books, baby. Gavriel Aryeh Sanders, the how and wow of Hebrew. Welcome back. Don't smoke crack. Rabbi, how are you?
Well, it's very kind of you to give me that pre-ramble. I think I appreciate that a lot. Today, I'm since we're talking about Purim, by the way, I'm sorry for the popping on my new microphone.
That doesn't sound too bad. You're good.
I'll try and stay away from it. One of the big deals about Purim is a lot of things that are hidden. We're going to talk about some of those aspects today. So in keeping with that, I am visually hidden because the camera on my laptop is not working for whatever reason.
Okay.
I was going to go over to Staples and get a little cheap external camera for today, but they closed the Staples. I called another electronics store down the street, about a mile and a half from here. Said, hey, you got a little cheap little camera? And they said, those aren't available anymore.
Wow.
So anyway, I talked to my IT guy from where I work, and he said, bring the thing in tomorrow and we'll take a look at it. And so at any rate, I am, I guess, as they say in Shemayim in the heavens, they want me to be invisible today. So you can put a picture of me later if you want to. Or actually, I probably have a picture or two that we can talk about. But anyway,
I've already got you up, but there is one particular picture I would love to put up of you.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, let me get past my little pre-ramble because I want to, as we always do. First of all, for those of you, if you're first time joining us for the How and Wow of Hebrew, which is the kind of natural evolution from what we used to call Hebrew for Fun and Profit, Prophet. We have about 22, 20, or 25, some number in the 20s, previous shows in the archives here for you to walk through. And I'm your Hebrew learning guide. And we really treat this segment as more of a magazine about Hebrew. I give you a lot of resources, and we'll focus on sometimes a word or a theme, but it's not a place where you come to actually, quote, learn Hebrew. We are, I'll talk about that at the end, we are going to start some small group classes online, live, that you could participate in if you choose to do that. There are tons and tons of options available for you, both recorded and otherwise, and we've highlighted those in previous editions. I did want to mention, as we often do at the beginning of our segment, some editions for your Jewish library if you're compiling books from Jewish sources. One of those is really 3 volumes, and one of the best, it was originally done in Hebrew by Rabbi Eliyahu Kitov. This is available from Feldheim. It's called The Book of Our Heritage, the Jewish Year and Its Days of Significance. Super. It goes through treatment of all the months, much detail, all the holidays, the customs, everything related to it. So your biblical literacy will take a leap forward, as well as if you're studying things Jewish, also there. The second one I wanted to recommend, and there's really 2 of these now, The Wisdom in the Hebrew Months by Tzvi Reisman from Los Angeles, available from Art Scroll, and you can use the discount code Gavriel20 to get 20% off the list price. None of that goes to me. I don't have an arrangement with them. This is just for you.
Do me a favor, keep that on the screen for just a minute if you don't mind. I'm having an issue with cropping one of these things, and for some reason it's not giving me the full range of motion that I need, so I can visualize everything. Don't change anything on your side. This is strictly a my side issue, but you can go ahead and talk. But leave that up for just a minute if you don't mind.
Right. So Tzvi Reisman has done 3 or 4 books now that I know he has 2 now on the Wisdom in the Hebrew Months. He has Wisdom in the Hebrew Numbers, which is really quite fascinating. And there's another book that was done, it's probably 30 plus years ago, one of the first ones that Art Scroll came out in this vein. It was called Wisdom in the Hebrew Letters. It's not by Rabbi Reisman, it's by somebody else, but similar in that title series. Those are all ones that you're definitely going to want to have. They're primarily in English with very good explanations on all the various things. And so it's really a primal text that you'll need, a fundamental text that you'll need for that. Can I switch the slide?
Yeah, go ahead. That's fine. I don't have a fixed yet.
Because we're coming to what you were anticipating. You know?
Gotcha.
Okay. So
there it is.
I want to say to everybody, Chag Purim Sameach. Purim Sameach, with the holiday of Purim, starts. We're recording this on a Sunday afternoon, And this is the 8th of March, and it's the 12th of Adar, the month of Adar, which is the last of the months. And somebody says, well, what do you mean last of the months? I thought, right before Rosh Hashanah, like Elul, isn't that the last of the months? Well, in the Hebrew matrix of time, there are actually 4 New Years. And so we're coming up on the month of Nisan, which has nothing to do with the cars in Japan. It's next month, which is Pesach, Passover. And that was known as the New Year for kings and for documents and so forth. So just like we have in I call it the common culture, we have a school year, we have a calendar year, we have a fiscal year. So those kind of overlap. So as well in the Jewish calendar, there's the beginning of the year from the marking of time, creation, etc. There's the fiscal, as I mentioned, really the kings, the administrative. And there's even a new year for the trees that we talked about not too long ago, which is Tu B'Shvat, which is the 15th of the month of Shvat. And so we are coming up on Purim, which is 2 weeks out from the month of Nisan. And a lot of people said that, well, Purim is sort of like the Jewish version of Halloween. That's not really true. Yes, people dress up. In fact, you're looking at this picture was taken of me last night, just before I rushed out to go to a little party, a gathering of a number of Hebrew teachers that I work with. And so I showed up looking like this. And everybody else was dressed normally. So I walk in and they go, I think we're doing this part on Wednesday this week at school, So anyway, I sat there eating my pasta and pizza and looking very hippish because, that's me like 40 years ago. I don't know. So it's
right.
For those of you who haven't seen me, you see the other pictures, so you see the contrast. Anyway, so thanks to my wife for helping me put all that together, and let's move on. I want to give you a little sage advice, which we'll call the Pitkam HaShavua, this saying of the week, and really, and this comes from the Gemara, the Masechta called Tanit, page 29a, and the phrase is Mishenechnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha. That and says basically this, starting from right to left. I flipped the English text around. When enters Adar, when the month of Adar begins, joy increases. We increase our joy. There's an interesting thing for those of you that know a little Hebrew already. You'll notice it says Mishenechnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha. There's no subject there. It just starts out with a verb Marbim, which means from the word Rav or Rov. It's one of these kind of general things. Like if you say, I could say to you, let's say something simple. B'Japan, medabrim Japanit. What I literally said was, in Japan, speaking Japanese. In English, we would say they speak Japanese. But Hebrew has this funny little way of, in making a generalized statement that applies to everything or everybody, it just drops out the subject. So this is very, very old, obviously, because it comes, this is a phrase from the Gemara. But there's this concept that when the month of Adar arrives, there's an increase of simcha. Well, you can see some natural reasons for that. One of the natural reasons is the weather's getting better, if you're in the northern hemisphere, for sure. We've passed, the winter is passing, and the weather's getting nicer, and the green starts to appear on the trees. There's a flip side to that, though, and that's for the month of Av, which happens right near the end of the summer, right before the month of Elul, which is right before Tishrei, which is where Rosh Hashanah is, the first of Tishrei. And Mishenechnas Av, Ma'atim B'Simcha. When enters Av, we decrease joy. Now, if you look at these two things, and there's quite a longer body of teaching that we could talk about through this, you look at these and go, well, what's common between them? And it's the last word, joy, or the word simcha. And simcha, as we've described it, is really the steady state of a person who's connected to the Creator. We have many, many reasons for being joyful. In fact, in the book of Psalms, we read these words, Ivdu et Hashem b'simcha. Everybody who studied or learned Psalm 100 will recognize, serve the Lord with gladness. Come before his presence with singing, right? We in our old days, back in the church world, we sang songs that were based on that, right? You probably did. Right. Say yes, William.
Yes. My microphone was stuck up behind my head.
Oh, okay, good. Well, I'm sure glad you got that figured out. So happiness, joy is a quality or a steady state quality for each person. But think of it sort of like a sine wave. All right, not Seinfeld. It's a sine wave where it kind of it modulates. It goes up and down and goes up and down, but within a certain band. And so in the month of Adar, we're on the upward slope of the sine wave. And when we come to the month of Av, which is a time that was a lot of destruction, the two temples were destroyed in the month of Av. The expulsion from Spain in 1492 happened in the month of Av. There are many, many other heavy, tragic events in Jewish history that have occurred in the month of Av, and that usually straddles, July, August in that particular area. So it's also the weather's not been amenable for those things. So, but again, what we said was common is the idea of joy, and of course we're coming up on Pesach, which is the holiday of redemption. There's a saying in Hebrew, B'Nisan Yigalu, that in the month of Nisan the people will be redeemed. There's an expectation for good things coming. It's a little chilling, I think, right now, as we're all focusing on the time that we are right now with the onset of this coronavirus here in North America now. We've been looking at it kind of by remote across the seas, watching this thing multiply.
Right.
And now it's on our doorsteps, and wherever you are right now in the world listening to this, and you might be 1 or 2 or 5 or even 6 months from now, and you've seen what the follow through has been. But in our sages, our great rabbis have been telling us that right now is a time to really pray. And it's interesting. So that's a very weak word. It's compelling, better word, that there are a number of things that coming together, coalescing around in time and space. This virus, the month of Adar, the onset of Purim, and we know that in Purim a great miracle happened. And so we're going to talk in a moment about the mitzvot, or the commonly called the commandments, but I like to call them the connections that are characteristic of Purim, things that we do during the month of Purim. And a great salvation was wrought for the Jewish people. There are two very big now commemorative holidays. They're not biblical holidays, but they're rabbinic holidays. One is Hanukkah and the other is Purim. And they were enacted as holidays for us to always remember the great salvation that was wrought. In the month of Purim, it was an attempt to physically annihilate the Jewish people. That was the decree that went out from King Ahasuerus through his evil agent, Haman. And Haman, whose name we mentioned during the reading of the Megillah, and everybody stomps their feet and crying and, rattles their groggers, they go around making noise. And everybody goes, ooh, boo, every time his name is mentioned, several times in the Megillah reading. So Purim is about the salvation, the deliverance from, and by the way, that is what the word salvation means. It doesn't mean, get out of hell free card. It means deliverance from a real physical enemy. And Purim is about the physical salvation of the Jewish people at that time in Shushan. And Hanukkah was an attempt by the Greeks to really spiritually annihilate the practice of Judaism, to wipe out Torah observance. They didn't mind that the Jews lived. They just wanted them to abandon everything that was connected to Jewish practice. Particularly, they had an issue with circumcision. And it was it's a kind of scary part of Jewish history that Jews who became Hellenized, Jewish men who became Hellenized, actually altered themselves physically to look uncircumcised. Now, why try that without a serious anesthetic? I don't know. That's quite a commitment to fit in, to assimilate.
Wow.
But Purim is about physical salvation, and Hanukkah is about the spiritual restoration that happened there. And so both of these have some particular, what we call halachot, or laws, or mitzvot. And I just want to go through these very quickly. Starting tomorrow morning, right at about, I think, 5:55 local time on the East Coast, we have what's called Ta'anit Esther. Ta'anit Esther is the fast of Esther, which we do this the day before Purim. This is one of the minor fasts. That is to say, it's not a 25 or 26-hour fast like we have with Yom Kippur or Tisha B'Av. This is call it sundown to sunset, but it's really before sunrise and after sunset. So that's one of the first things. We are required to read the Megillah, or the scroll, Kriyat Megillat Esther, twice. We read it tomorrow night, and then we'll read it again on Tuesday morning. And then there's something called Mishloach Manot. Mishloach Manot is sending food parcels. This is mentioned in the Book of Esther, that is part of the celebration. People sent gifts of food to each other. And we our sages determined for us that those foods should be at least two items, both involving two separate brachot, or two separate blessings. So it could be a piece of fruit, for example, and a little bottle of grape juice, or people get very creative. In fact, some people get really creative and send a parcel that probably cost $120. I don't know, I was working for somebody once a number of years ago, and it must have been $100 worth of stuff that was in there. It was amazing. But the basic thing is just, sometimes you get potato chips and something else. I don't know. But another thing that was characteristic is giving gifts to the poor, what are called matanot le'evyonim. Matana is the word gift. The name Natan, by the way, or Matan, which is also a person's name, comes from the same source. The name Nathanael, or Nathaniel, is derived from that same Hebrew root of giving, is that Hashem gave, Natan El. Matanot le'evyonim, the charity for the poor, and this can be done directly or indirectly. So this is a time, usually at almost all synagogues, where there's an extra number of people that come around to collect, as it were. We always have people coming through to collect, 20, 30, 40, 50 people a week sometimes come through, some from Israel, whatever. But this is a time when everybody knows who's in need to come out. Also, we have a number of what we call yeshiva brochurim, young guys, students, yeshiva students that will go around to the houses of various known people of substance, let's say. They're called gvirim, or askanim in Hebrew, and they'll go in and they'll come as a group and they'll sing and do whatever and try and get a collection for the yeshiva. And as I said, here it can be directly given or it can be indirectly given. There are agencies or organizations through which people can channel their giving, but that's a really big piece of the Purim puzzle, is to give these gifts to Evyonim. It doesn't have to be a lot. We're not talking about $500. It could be $2 or $3. Sometimes people pool their funds to give, and also the rabbis have discretionary funds also to do this. Another important mitzvah of Purim is the Sudat mitzvah, or the Sudat simcha of Purim, of having a festive meal, which most people will do in the latter part of the afternoon on Tuesday. And then in the Torah reading that's connected with Purim, there's from Parshat Beshalach, which is in the book of Exodus. We read it recently. The remembering Amalek. And Amalek is a presence it's almost a thread or a theme in the minds of some people that would fall into the category of, I'll be euphemistic, not so nice, who want to annihilate the Jewish people. And the phrase we just had Parshat Zachor. The word Zachor means remembrance. We had Parshat Zachor yesterday in Shabbat in Shul. It's hard for me to use the word synagogue. I'm so used to not using it. Beit Knesset is the house of gathering, is the Hebrew phrase. So in our Beit Knesset, in our Shul, we had this, and it's a big mitzvah for people to come out, and we also read it again then on Purim. And the phrase that comes up here, I should have put it, I just didn't have time to put that phrase up there, but it talks about Amalek, Asher korcha b'derech, Asher korcha b'derech, which in some translations are kind of tailed you or travel, kind of was tailed you is probably the best word. But there's several different translations for that word korcha. Kor, or kar in Hebrew, can mean like cool or cold. And so one of the influences of Amalek is to try to cool off the Jewish people. Another aspect of the Amalek is that they just sort of, the word koreh with a hey on the end, koreh, means just sort of happened upon you, just out of the blue, unexpectedly. And that often happens. And so we have to be a people of not just vigilance, but hypervigilance, because there's both a physical and a spiritual aspect to Amalek, that things just kind of come in sometimes because our guard is down. So it's telling us to keep our guard up and be on watch, and not just slip and slide and be serene and sedate, but to be aware that because things can happen seemingly out of the blue, like this virus. Another thing that's associated with Purim is giving the half shekel. Now, anybody who's read, for example, through the book of Leviticus more than once has seen about the half shekel. It's called machzita shekel. And anybody who's got a little bit of Hebrew under their belt, if you take a look at in the word machzit, you'll see. Can you see my cursor moving here?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so under the word machzit, half, we have this word chetzi. Chetzi also word means half. So, sometimes I ask my students, how you doing today? And they go, chetzi, chetzi.
Mm-hmm.
So-so. So-so. Chetzi, chetzi means so-so. It means like half and half. Not all there, and not all here. Nicht dahin, nicht daher, as they say in Yiddish. Neither here nor there. But the giving of the half shekel is very important. We're gonna see in a moment what there's a message. There's a whole explication that we can do from the word itself, which I'll do in just a second. Another thing that happens on Purim, by the way, is in the normal prayer service in what's called Shemona Esrei, the 19 benediction silent standing portion that we do in prayer 3 times a day. There's the insertion of something called Al Hanisim, which means about the miracles. And that Al Hanisim only occurs twice a year. It occurs on Purim in a short version, and it occurs on Hanukkah in a longer version. And I'll just, if we have time, I'll go through the English really quickly to just let you see what it says. So going back to the word machzit, which means half, machzit a shekel, half the shekel. Of course, a half shekel was given, by all the people, all the heads of households in Israel, and was gathered together each year, and that's how a census was conducted. King David got into trouble for actually physically counting people, so it was always done by proxy. In fact, it's very well known amongst a lot of Jewish families that when someone says, "Well, how many children do you have?" they don't tell you. I have relatives through my wife's family that they just don't say it. How many grandchildren do you have? They're not going to tell you. They'll say, Baruch Hashem, we have. Right. Because counting is considered to be something that opens. There's a phrase in Hebrew that says, Al tiftach pe Satan. Don't open your mouth for the adversary, for the Satan, for the one who opposes you.
Makes sense.
So it's not giving an opportunity. So it's an element of faith. Somebody could say, well, it sounds kind of superstitious. I guess it could. But for those who feel very careful about what they have and not giving an opportunity, there are people for the whole issue. We haven't talked about on this program the concept of Lashon Hara, about evil speech, which basically can be defined as saying something true about somebody else, but it's designed to just kind of pass it off as sort of like news, like gossip. That's another subject, a big one, a deep one in itself. Let's talk about this, though. The word machzit, if we start to explode the word a little bit by stretching it out, notice the letter right in the middle is the word tzadi, which sounds very much like tzedakah, right, or tzaddik. Right. Okay, so that letter, and on either side of that letter tzadi, we see the letter chet and we see the letter yud. And if we put them together, we have the word chai, which is life. But at the extremes of the word machzit, we have a mem, and we have a taf, or a tav, as some people say. Well, what does that spell? Mate. What does that mean? It means death.
Right.
Now, there's a phrase, a powerful one, in the book of Proverbs. I didn't look up the reference, but I just happen to know this. Tzedakah tatzil mimavet. Charity, going from right to left, charity saves from death. Now, it might also be translated righteousness. But the concept of giving charity is a righteous deed. It's the right thing to do. And it says, tatzil mimav, it saves a person from death. Now, there's more than one form of death, according to the definition of the term in Hebrew. So there's obviously the one we all know and get worried about, physical death. Then there's economic death. There's moral death. There's a variety of different ways it can come. There's a phrase from our sages that says, ani nechshav kemet. And that word ani, there's an ayin on there, not an aleph. So I'm not saying I'm saying a poor person. Ani nechshav kemet means that a poor person is considered as dead. And for obvious reasons. They're devoid, they're dead of opportunity, it seems to be. And they're dependent. So it's really upon us to change the world, make a difference. And one of the reasons that there are poor amongst us, and the Torah speaks specifically to this issue, is so that we would be motivated to be compassionate. And so we have times of the year that punctuated with this point, and Purim is a big one. So this word machzit shekel, from the machzit, you can draw this out. This is sort of a drash sort of approach to interpretation. Not every word can be done this way, but this one certainly brings it out to us in an interesting and engaging way, I think. So here's from the text of Al Nissim I mentioned, which are these two insertions of it in the prayer service. In the days of Mordechai and Esther in Shushan, the capital, when Haman the wicked rose up against them and sought to destroy, to slay, and to exterminate all the Jews, young and old, infants and women, on the same day, on the 13th of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, and to plunder their possessions. But you, speaking to Hashem, in your abundant mercy, nullified his counsel and frustrated his intention, and caused his design to return upon his own head, and they hanged him and his son on the gallows. Now, Haman had ordered the building of a very large, a very tall, I think it was 50 amot, I think it is, which is like a cubit, which we use in biblical languages, which is about 1.5 feet. That's pretty tall. And so this phrase that we see here, to return upon his own head, a powerful phrase mentioned in Hebrew is v'nahafahu, which it was like turned over. That is the message of Purim, and that's what we're asking Hashem to do at Purim. But really, when we're facing this virus issue, we're asking Hashem to turn this thing back on its own head. And Purim is a time of hidden things that become displayed. By the way, we know that in the book of Esther, what is the most apparent omission in the book of Esther? Do you know?
The most apparent omission? Yeah, actually, hold on. I'm trying to think. We just discussed it earlier today, actually.
We're testing William's memory.
Yes, I've got so many distractions. It's hard to pay attention sometimes. Tell me, it's going to drive me nuts because it'll take me 20 minutes to figure it out. So,
man, we don't have that kind of time. What's glaringly missing from the book of Esther is any mention of the name of God.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, cool.
Okay, so I know you remember that.
Yep.
So, as a friend of mine many years ago wrote a song, and in that was a line that said, "He may be hidden, but he ain't kidding." And so we see Hashem working behind the scenes in proxy fashion through Mordechai and Esther and the amazing things that took place here, the positioning. I mean, can you imagine? We have a Jewish woman marrying a non-Jewish king. How did that work? You know, it's like there's a bunch of different things that happen in here that are so puzzling and mind-boggling. Now, to help people go a little further, I'll come to this in a moment. I'm going to give a couple of references where you can get some really excellent insights on understanding the hidden nature of this particular book. I wanted to then mention also and I pulled this. Do you know we've been doing this since 2016 or something? I went back to pull out this slide from a treatment that we did on the concept of chiasm. Chiastic structure in Esther, which I found online from John Levinson, who did a treatment of this. Chiasm is the letter chi, or chi in Greek, looks like a big X. And if you take and turn it into two V's, a V on top of each other, one inverted below and the other, so it's like a big X, then you have a structure. A lot of people know about parallelism. And there are 3 different types of parallelism. We talked about that in the past. But I think in the book of Esther, it's so amazing. And I'll mention to you Rabbi David Foreman, whom I know here from the neighborhood and who's one of the greatest teachers. I said to him one time, Rabbi Foreman, you are the closest thing on the planet to a Baptist preacher. He's only rabbi I know who's got it down. In fact, a lot of people subscribe to his websites. We're well worth it. It's like $9 a month. It's nothing for the enormous content that they provide. And I think his biggest subscriber, he told me once, there's some church in Tacoma or Seattle or
Oh, that's
something,
funny. Wow.
like 700 people from there that subscribe, but they love it because it's really fresh. And so he brings this whole concept of chiasms and identifies them all throughout Tanakh. They're all over the place. And what you see here is that notice the letters going down on the left, A, B, C, D, E, F, G,
Right.
down to H, and then coming back up the other side. And notice how A on one side corresponds to A on the other side. And you have that coming all the way down. This is not just some humanly contrived, what would it be called? Eisegesis and exegesis, right? So it has nothing to do with Jesus, right?
Right.
So this eisegetically, I suppose, would be the word.
Okay.
Right? We're kind of reading it into the text when it's not there. This is really there. So you can just take a look on the screen right now and see kind of how these fit, and what is the touch point? What is what's the at the nadir, at the very bottom, is the turning point. And this in chapter 6, really the turning point is the dream that Ahasuerus has, and where he then wakes up and asks his consultants, what was ever done for Mordechai? And they consult the records and books and nothing, and that's the turning point. So the dream of Ahasuerus is really where things turn around, and there has to be this royal procession for Mordechai, and Haman has to lead him on a horse and with nice garments, etc. And so that's the turning point. And so we see this throughout Tanakh, that there are various turning points. And we're praying and we're asking for turning points. And all the information coming to me right now online from different sources about this whole virus is just simply daven, 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 which means pray, pray, pray. Mm-hmm. That's our resource. And learn and give and be kind to each other. So here on the cusp of the month of the cusp of the holiday of Purim, we have opportunities. You may be Jewish, may not be Jewish. You can still on this day do something of kindness. You can give charity for sure. You can provide a meal for somebody. You can go take somebody out for just that, whatever. Just there are so many different ways to express kindness. I'm going to say last. Let me mention these two resources.
Okay.
And then I'll get to the end here. Again, part of this whole magazine approach is to provide you with different places to go for your own study, because not every alatam v'alareach ein levet idvakeach, as we say in Hebrew. Alatam v'alareach, about taste and smell, there's nothing to argue about, because it's a rather subjective thing. But if you just go to your browser and type in Chabad Holidays Purim, you'll pull up a really delightful menu of, and it goes down further than what you see here on the bottom. There's over the stories and audio and video, lovely resources here. And then Rabbi Foreman at his organization aleph-beta.org has tons of things here. Some of the videos are really short, like 10 minutes. Some of those are free, and then, as I said, there's also a premium option, but it's well worth it for $9 a month, and it's great stuff. We'll talk about that in a moment.
Okay.
And I had a thought that was triggered from here that went right out of my head. Do you ever have that happen?
Oh yes, of course. Kind of like,
really?
yeah. I mean, kind of like the whole question that you actually asked about the what was missing from the book of Esther.
It just came back. It just my thought. It just came back.
That's funny.
I remember what I wanted to say, and I'm always looking for things of substance, whether it's in the common culture or within the world of Torah, things that speak to our values and how to be better people on the inside. Because I learned a long time ago that one's destiny is a byproduct of one's character, and one's character is a byproduct of one's habits, and one's habits are a byproduct of one's repeated actions. And those actions are triggered by thoughts and words. So you can connect, and we've said this before, there's connective tissue that goes all the way from one's thoughts to one's ultimate destination, or one's destiny. Destiny and destination are related words. So the real crux is if you want to know what a person's character is, just look at the habits that they have. If you want to know what I really believe, just look at my repeated actions. My repeated actions belie what I really believe. And a lot of people today, of course, are searching and scrambling for happiness. And we associate the word simcha with Purim, for example. But what we're really all looking for, says Simon Sinek, EK, I think it is, Cynic, or S-I-N-I-K. You'll see it on YouTube. He did a really excellent talk that I watched the other day, and I've shared it with others, on the subject of fulfillment. He says, we think we want happiness, but what we really want is fulfillment. And fulfillment comes not for doing for yourself, but for doing for others. And he gives some great stories about that, and it's an excellent thing to watch. And Purim is about finding fulfillment, not just finding simcha, because simcha can be self-absorbed and self-consumed. But fulfillment is where I'm bringing happiness into the world. When I'm serving God with simcha, it's not just from an overflow of a happy, giddy sort of euphoria that I'm having inside. It really comes from making a happy difference in the world around me. And that's what we're empowered to do. No matter if all we've got is, just a few pennies. Rabbi Nachman says that kind of tzedakah we can give, at least 2 pennies, 2 kopecks, he calls it. So many reasons to rejoice, many reasons to go forward, many reasons to learn good things, and I provided you with a pretty full bounty of things here. We are working on forming some classes. I have a number of people who've gotten in touch with me, and they're on my waiting list. I'm looking for a solid, X number of that'll be there. You're welcome to join if you want to. It'll be Hebrew taught in Hebrew through songs, stories, and humor. It's a natural bridge to biblical Hebrew. We'll meet twice weekly, God willing. We might start out with about a 40-minute lesson, 45 minutes. They'll be archived for your review. Small classes, I look at about $12 a person per lesson. Make it manageable. We've been talking about having an Aleph and a Beit level, but so far it looks like it's going to be an Aleph. And if you're interested and you haven't mastered reading it, write to me at Gavriel Sanders, go at gmail.com, and I'll send you a link where you can actually go and get started on your literacy without me having to drag you through the process. I found a really good video online that does it for you. It gives you about the letters and how they sound and the vowel points and putting them together. And that's an exercise you can go through for yourself in a couple of weeks, and you can come to the class kind of ready to read. And ready to sound things out that you see on the screen. Right. And I think that's it for today. There's our goal. And that's how I look today, as opposed to how I looked last night.
Hey, no, that's okay. It's you look good on that. I was thinking when I first saw it, when you sent it to me, I was like, did he send me a picture from when he was in high school? Then I looked up closer, and I can see it.
Amazing what a wig and some mascara will do in one's beard. So, the fun part last night was trying to get that stuff out. My wife said, "Okay, it's going to take olive oil." So I'm rubbing my face at after midnight with olive oil and then some soap, and then eventually I got back to my my white-faced self.
That's funny. Well, there you go. Well, thank you for taking the schedule today, because I know tomorrow is going to be a difficult time for you, and it may be that way in the future. So we're going to try to work on, with your permission, see if we can squeeze you in one of the time slots during today's schedule on a regular basis. Once we get that all figured out, so we'll see what happens.
So I have one last thing to say.
Yes.
As the screen goes black, let me go back up here.
Okay.
One last thing to say in the whole topic of charity. And that is that many of us who are listening here on Tanakh Talk, myself included, listening, watching, have come out of the church. And we have a natural, maybe it's developed, but then it became natural, a natural orientation to give. We were used to tithing, and we were used to offerings. And so I just want to invite you, in the spirit of that, to consider making Tanakh Talk, the platform with the funny name, and quite the bevy of teachers. It's amazing how it's growing. But would you consider something regular to Tanakh Talk? I mean, this doesn't just happen on its own because William and family have such deep pockets. The guy works a job. He's in construction. He's always doing things, and he's just out of the overflow of his heart. He's done the work. He's willing to do it. Obviously, you see what's done, but he needs help because things are growing and expanding. There's a demand for more things, and there's more programming to be done. So just as one of the presenters, and none of us who present make a nickel from what we're doing on here, we do it because we care. We care about you, and we're consolidating a community, a virtual community of people who are in various stages of their spiritual journey. They're still in the church, but got questions. They've come out of the church, and they've got dilemmas. They've become Noachides, and they're kind of growing in that particular community. Or some have also made the trek, as I have, into observant Judaism. And so wherever you are in that spectrum, we're here to help you. But I want you to help William continue to help us, because that's really important. We got to keep the lights on, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I'm saying. So if there's hundreds of people that watch, even thousands. So if you could spare $5-10 a month, not thousands, but $5 or $10 a month through the PayPal, that'd really be great. William doesn't necessarily speak up enough about this subject because he doesn't want to appear like he's doing that, and I credit him. But I can, and I did. So now your job is to go to the Facebook page or wherever it is, and he'll tell you, go click on the PayPal and just get it done. Do it right now, today. Do it. Okay, don't wait.
Brother,
there's a phrase in Hebrew that says mitzvah sheba al yadecha al techaptzena. I'm not saying it exactly right, but this is when a mitzvah comes into your hand, don't delay.
Right.
So here's one that's come your way right now. So act on it, take care of it, and by the way, you'll feel a sense of fulfillment for having done that. Okay, and that's what it's all about. You thought it was the hokey pokey.
Oh my gosh, Gavriel, thank you so much. That was very kind of you. I really appreciate that. And you can go to TanakTalk.com, or if some people don't use that, you could also send. A lot of people want to know if they can mail a check, and we got a P.O. box, so it's 1444 Kingsland, Texas 78639. So you can go back and rewind this to get that address again. So, Gavriel, once again, you're awesome. I really appreciate you and all you've done, and I love your glasses. It's really great. Thank you, sir.
Well, this is me, the old hippie, wishing you the best, and we will get together, Mitzvah Hashem, next week.
Very good, my old hippie. Love it.
Please daven, please pray,
man.
Give and love and make a difference.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Shalom, everybody. Take care.
Bye-bye.
חשוב מכל חשוב והכרחי להיות ביחד. איפוק זו העוצמה, ויתור זו הגדולה, השאיפה והכמיהה. אני אתה אתם תמיד כולם ביחד. חשוב מכל חשוב והכרחי להיות ביחד. איפוק זו העוצמה